There's that old familiar feeling. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no. It's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension. There is a menacing tension in the air, isn't there? Yes, I think so. It could only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Oh, I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been selected. A trial without a jury? The trial of the professor 10 years ago? A closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Sholmes. Have you made note of my hair, Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem is to another a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning. Oh dear, how awful. I'm afraid you have only yourself to blame, Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Reaper. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And you. I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow. Compared to my paltry engagements with a few trivial cases, the Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent into the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point on which I would readily commend you. What an honor. And that would be your eye for a good lawyer. Sholmes. After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind, my own. What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial. Sorry to barge in. Gina. What's that on her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose. Father, shouldn't you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspectors to see our country's up-and-coming student. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits for you to see. Odo. Oh, yes, Gina. Why'd you agree to this, eh? Why'd you take him on? This Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him. What killed the boss. I'm sorry, Gina. But I just don't believe that. What if it weren't him? Who was it? I don't know that yet. I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper's just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him what killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least that may be some solace to the deceased. Please, Odo. Get whoever did this. For the boss. Oh. I hate feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you've got to find who did this and make the wretch pay. Counsel for the defense, defendant, court session, get in. Alright then, here we go. It's time, Lord Von Zykes. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. one who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law, and one who lost the man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're going to have to look it straight in the eye. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I declare court in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant. Counsels for the defense, signed of prosecution, are you ready? The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Oh, Kazuma-sama. I've been wishing to see you at court again for so long, it feels. But I never pictured it happening like this. He's got 2 swords, though! He's so powerful now. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today, we must uncover the truth behind this scourge. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Gregson's murder. The truths revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial with no members of the public present. By Her Majesty's direct orders. How will that work, my lord? The burden of all arbitration and adjudication falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the juror's bench shall remain vacant. If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery? They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial. Members of the judiciary. Oh my, this is very unusual already. There is, of course, another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings. The counsels for the prosecution and defense are both aliens of Great Britain. I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain. This is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma. Very well, let us commence. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement. Certainly, my lord. The incident took place on November 1st at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building of flats on Frenzo Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property. Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name well known indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of the country's grimmest cases. The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street heard the gunshot, and all have reported the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. How has the range been determined? There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. I see, yes, thank you for the detailed explanation. Better have a gander at that just in case. Wait, time of death? Why is it blank here? Victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front. Instant death, scorch marks. Bullet exited the body from behind. The caliber of the gun used matches that of the standard issue firearms in the judiciary. The murder weapon was found laying beside the victim. And you have managed to ascertain the owner? No, my lord. Not conclusively. Bravo, Cosima, for not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Furthermore, my lord, as I have explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There is a candelabrum mounted on the wall, and the tip of those candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yes, that's right. Thank you for the thorough report, Counsel. The setting of the crime is clear. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence. As you wish, my lord. Is this Frenso Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode? No, my lord. The room is rented by a Mr. Huge Bone. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably he was investigating some case. When a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot. So, the details of the case are clear. In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. A name, please. Naturally. The accused himself. Lord Van Zykes. As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken and will be compelled to tell the truth. Very well. Let the defendant take the stand. So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Barak Von Zykes, Old Bailey prosecutor. I presume, Van Zykes, that you heard Prosecutor Asogi's opening statement. I did. It is alleged you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this? Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things. Namely, why you were there in that room on Frenso Street at the time in question, and what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth. I must say, Van Zykes, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come, but since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony, then. I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside, and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of the Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth? It was. So, you heard a shot being fired in the room with no living occupants, and moments later a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right, you haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. Whoops. I thought you were my mute apprentice, yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Asogi. It would appear to be a singular tale. Singular isn't the word, it's laughable. What's gotten into Kazuma? He's not behaving like himself. Very well. Counsel, you may examine. Yes, my lord. It's definitely not a very convincing story. Hold it! You were investigating the inspector. What on earth for? I'm not at liberty to say. Sorry? I'd identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in a case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed.
Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question you followed the victim?
No. I was privy to his movements in advance.
How?
I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Frenso Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry.
You illegally entered the man's office. In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Von Sykes?
I was aware of the possible consequences.
So, in summary, you were investigating the victim. And yet, you refused to tell the court why. I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath.
Ugh.
Had you ever been to the address before?
No, never. I only learnt of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make anything out.
But at 5 p.m. the sun would have only just gone down. It would have still been reasonably light outside.
The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor.
There was no artificial light in the room, you say. You're quite sure?
I'm quite sure that part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small lamp burning on the desk, though I couldn't say for certain.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. There's a small desk in the room here.
Yes, I remember. There was an oil lamp on it, as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started towards the desk to investigate.
And what did you find?
Nothing. I never actually reached the desk.
I mean, that seems like something to present evidence on, because we've got the candles, right? I heard the gunshot. I spun around. So, who fired the gun?
I have no idea. I didn't see anyone else in the room.
But you say it was very dark.
Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is I didn't sense another's presence.
Ah, then could it be a ghost? The gunshot originated from somewhere outside the room. Shut your fucking mouth, you stupid fucking bitch. Yes, of course, it originated from outside the room. That's why he's got the fucking gunpowder residue on him, isn't it? Yes, because the gunshot happened from very far away. God, I hate you so much.
No, that's out of the question.
Oh.
Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder.
It's going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor?
Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was careless on my part.
Presumably, then, the gunshot you heard from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took into your hand.
In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not.
What?
The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder.
But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired?
Whilst I would like to oblige you with an answer, I'm afraid I can't. I, too, would dearly like to know that.
A man, you say? One of the witnesses? That's right. One of the street merchants working on Frenso Street. Who are these merchants? A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They had all given statements saying they heard the gunshot. And without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday. They burst through the door with some force, it would seem.
They did,
and almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you're supposed to be the Reaper. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Frenso Street heard the commotion, and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's screams drew my attention in that direction. What do you mean by that? In what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first, nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances. How the inspector was killed, or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea.
Objection.
Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused, Barak von Zykes, is lying on multiple fronts. What? What's that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. The defendant is lying. In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum. How does that prove anything? This is what I would have pointed out. This is what I was going to point out after I pressed everything. If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. The problem comes when you consider the other two, which are clearly of a different length. Yes, I can see that the only candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. We could reasonably expect someone to have all three candles lit together. Which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because that particular candle was extinguished while the others were burning. Ah! That's right. When the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles could have still been burning, so the fact is... Hold on, which way does the door open? This diagram doesn't say, god damn it. It still seems reasonable to assume he couldn't see this if the door swings out like so, because the door would cover the body. But the other two candles would have still been burning, so the fact is... The victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum, and the accused's claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. And now, to the next lie. There's more. The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yes, that's right, we saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they included a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. And there is a common thread linking all of the documents on the board. Indeed? What is this, counsel? They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barak von Zykes. I thought it might be a Reaper's, like the Reaper's hit list kind of deal. Ooh, camera. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted. Good lord! Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Ah. Oh no. In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet, the Reaper would never claim to have been to his own secret hideout? No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards. Backwards? Explain. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. What? Order, order. Very well, I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barak von Zykes is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. However, it is with deep regret I must concur with Sogi's contention that the defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Cosm has done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build his prosecution case, and it's formidable. Counsel, you will submit the board that you showed the court as evidence. I believe it to be fundamental, and it's... Yeah. Thank you, my lord. Let's have a gander. Oh! What have we here? Oh, what's this? Mr. Naruhodo, look. Oh yes, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks like a handprint. And the color, that's blood, isn't it? Oh dear, how disturbing. Why is there blood on the other side? There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years on here, aren't there? This appears to be from 10 years ago, is browning with age. Look. Out of interest, the most recent thing appears to be this newspaper here. Oh, it's the same Red-Headed League advertisement Sholmes had picked out. And do you remember? There was a red hairpiece at the scene. Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the Red-Headed League then? Why is there a bloody handprint on the other side of it? And now, the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question. They were mentioned in the previous testimony, too. Yes, the street sellers who heard the gunshot and went running into the room. Very well, let the witnesses in. The defendant may step down from the witness stand. Certainly, my lord. Hold on, I gotta hydrate. Not you again. So, witnesses. State your names and occupations for the court.
Names? We don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us.
We're just free and easy. Sell what we like. Live where we want to live.
I give them all a vacant stare as they walk down Frenzo and spit a few words into a verse for them.
Ah! Would I be right in assuming that all three of you make your living by selling wares?
Sure, everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty or tidbits to passers-by, you know.
Jaunty little tidbits?
Got an absolute smasher for you, sir. Right up your ginnel it is. 6p is the price, I'm not a penny less.
Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now?
Oh, come on, sir, don't dare me you're not interested.
Try the man. Give him money and see what happens. Pay the man, counsel! Do it, you little bitch! Give him the money! Alright.
You won't regret it, sir. Now, got your listening ears on. Just between us, a young couple on Slate Street have just had twins.
Is that it?
No, that's not it. It's gossip, is it? It was to spread, but that bit's up to you and your mouth, of course. But I've got more you now. Want another juicy one? 6p apiece if you're curious.
I am curious, yes, about what's going on under that fat bottom lip of yours. Maybe that unusual bruise or what it is that you've got poking out from under your collar. Oh, I didn't even see that. What about the next witness, then? What name do you go by and what do you sell?
Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids.
Well, clearly this is going to be important, isn't it?
6p a pop, what do you say?
You weren't exaggerating with little. Did they actually sell?
Oh yeah, the second years can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers. Especially when I tell them if they get 100, they could blow up the school.
Uh-huh.
Not the most savory of ideas. What do you say then, eh?
Want to part with 6p for a pop?
Wait, what? You want me to buy one? Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you could blow up the whole courtroom.
Try the woman. Give her the money and see if she's right.
Pay the woman, counsel. Come on. Do it, you little bitch. Don't be a pussy. Everybody wants to see the courtroom explode. Alright, I'll buy one. Lovely stuff. Alright then. This is something a bit extra just for you. The Venus special, only 600p.
600?
It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Nothing little about that, is there?
And there's the nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey. Okay, yeah, uh-huh. Gee, I wonder if that's going to be important for sound reasons. And the last witness, what name do you go by, and what do you sell?
I'm a thinker, me. I had all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. I think. Because I stand there on the street watching the whole world go on about me. They call me the Observator.
Get over it, old man. Everyone calls you Sandwich and you know it.
So, you don't actually sell anything?
Oh, problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. I give advice and I do. And I think what it means. I don't actually sell anything, no, come to think of it.
Pity. No more purchases today, please.
Pay the man, maybe he'll give you something. Come on, you little bitch, you never know. Well, we have quite a case here, it seems.
They conduct their business on Frenso Street from morning until night, my lord. And always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene.
I see, and thus they heard the gunshot.
Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witnessed the crime.
Well, I'll be figured off for just between us.
Venus de Milo, what am I to do? What a terrible thing I saw. What I think is, if all what we see is light and shadow playing with our eyes, is any of it real? Very well. Court will hear the testimony. You will describe in detail what you witnessed.
We saw the whole thing from start to finish, we did. Everything from the moment they went into the building.
It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang. It seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to see what had happened.
I ran into the room and there he was, the Reaper, running in, standing over the dead body.
I was scared after death, me, so I ran off to find a copper.
If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused, Barak von Zykes.
I've seen pictures of that Reaper in the paper. I know what he looks like. And just between us, folk love stories like this. I've made myself a tidy sum already.
But wait, the room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All of the flats on Frenso Street are unoccupied.
Of course they are. They're small, damp, dirty, and expensive to boot.
The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased. And we know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Huge Bone. The testimony the court has just heard would appear to leave little room for doubt. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendant could have committed the crime. No. Thank you for your candor, my lord. Counsel, examine time. Yes, my lord. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony, somehow. To be honest, I'm stoked. I didn't really like the summation examination that much as a mechanic.
We saw the old thing from start to finish.
When you say they, who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and the defendant?
I suppose so. The likes of us don't know the names of this high and mighty. But I'll tell you one thing. It was the old Reaper that went in last, that's for sure and certain.
Just behind Inspector Gregson? Did they arrive at the same time?
No, not at all. The first fella must have got inside a good 15 minutes before we heard the gunshot.
The victim arrived 15 minutes before, are you sure?
Am I sure? Am I sure? Does it seem likely that I've forgotten a fella with a bright red hair like that, does it?
Yeah, his hair is really red. Really were red, wouldn't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks, even. That fiery red mop still burnt in the inside of my eyelids is. Wait a minute, you're saying the man was a redhead?
Well, you're listening, chum. Oh, he was a redhead, and he had a big trunk with him as well.
But Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red, not by any stretch. It seems likely that person you saw wasn't Gregson. He was wearing the wig, probably. No, I hate to break it to you, but the witnesses are correct. What? Just have a look at this photograph of the victim taken at the scene. Yes, that's Inspector Gregson, alright. And a red hairpiece. Ah, of course, we saw it on the floor, yes. I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. So then why on earth would he have been wearing something like that? The color doesn't seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted. Hold on, let me have a gander at that. Fuck, we have a lot of evidence. Wait, it doesn't have any blood on it, though, does it? This is clearly in the blood. Yeah, there's no blood, like, on the hairpiece. But, like, it's pretty clearly, like, touching the blood. I don't see anything else that immediately leaps out. It's a bit of a weird way for him to fall over if he died instantly, though, isn't it? You wouldn't expect him to curl up into a ball from instant death. And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene. So it just disappeared.
What? Do you expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you?
We definitely saw him in the dock going in, though. No question about that. Less than a minute. By which presumably you mean the gunshot. I sell these little things, don't I? How should I know what a gunshot sounds like? But I've always thought it probably sounds a bit like this, doesn't it? And you say that you heard the the noises almost as soon as you saw the defendant here enter the building.
That's right. It was almost straight away. Bang, it went. Just like that.
But it's the Reaper, isn't it? It's what the French call a fait accompli. Accompli? When the Reaper's around, people go in the ground. I mean, that's what he does, isn't it?
I think we get the message. The Reaper couldn't allow the inspector to live after he discovered his secret hideout. There can be no clearer motive for the crime.
Yes. It's certainly an eminently credible motive.
Great. And at that point, you ran inside, is that correct? So, when Gossip ran to see what happened, did you go too?
Well, me, I'm a bit hampered, see. All the signs that I can't move very well.
You were away behind, presumably, with that sandwich board around your neck and that big sign in your hand. What a great burden you bear. Pardon me for asking, Mr. Sandwich. But, is it possible? Yes, we have. Yes, correct.
I'm not anybody, me. The signs are what makes me who I am. I sign, therefore I am.
So, you weren't employed as an omnibus driver. I might be mistaken, but I believe his trembling has intensified. Yes, I agree. He's clearly been through a lot.
Turn down King Henry Street and the Black Widower's Arms is just there.
Oh dear, you've made him hide behind his sign. He's shy. So then you were the first person to arrive on the scene, is that right?
That boys kicked the door open like a professional, I did, and I yelled out, "What's going off here?"
Lord Van Zykes claims all he heard was a man's scream, though. And it was dark inside the room?
No, not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall.
Really?
And there was a fella collapsed to the floor. Just between us. It's the first thing I noticed when I got inside.
Ah, I see. Even though Van Zykes claims not to have seen any such light on the wall.
The next thing I noticed was someone standing right beside the body.
The accused, Barak Van Zykes.
That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it, but I'm no lily-livered coward. I stood my ground and gave him a hard steer myself.
Is that true? Do you have something to add, Mr. Sandwich?
There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head I am. Just 2 slices with no middle. So I don't know what you could want with me.
I think that maybe you just remembered something. Having heard Mr. Gossip's statement, I believe.
What I think is, we're all nothings, really. We try to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're just street sellers.
That's enough out of you, Sandwich. Keep your trap shut. Unless you want us to make you into a real sandwich.
When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his backside.
That's it?
Oh, you've got rotten big. I told you to keep that a secret.
He screamed, he did. Screamed and scrambled off on all 4s. That's what I wanted to say.
Mr. Gossip, is this true?
The floor was dead slippery, that's why. Planted me in a filthy pool of blood, didn't I? Yuck.
What? A pool of blood in the hallway?
But listen here, even though I was sprawled on the floor, I still kept giving that Reaper a cold hard stare, and don't you forget it.
Let's just go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand?
I did, happens to the best of us at times, didn't it? So I was scared, so I slipped over. We can keep it just between us, can't we?
No, Mr. Gossip. I'm going to have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony.
Oh, if I must.
The witness will amend his testimony. So we really just slammed the plan down on the desk right now, right? Oh, I better not get fucking baited, but like, you know, that's pretty far away from where that guy should have been.
Objection.
Why? I want him to show me on the map where he fell in the blood. Ugh. Do I have to press him on it?
Hold it.
You wiped your hand on the floor? Wait, no. That's why there's a bloody handprint.
Well, if one's blood on his hand, eh? Horrible stuff. They might have thought I'd done it.
And you didn't think that might be a problem?
Does it really matter if I left a few grubby handprints on the floor? Don't make such a fuss, that's the message from all of us.
Is something wrong, Counsel? No, my lord. I didn't remember anything in the report about a bloody handprint on the floor, that's all.
Don't come at me with that, you can't intimidate me. I know what I did, I wiped it off on the floor.
Okay, so I feel as though personally the map should have been an acceptable answer to this. But I guess this is also fine. Nope, whoops. Bap, 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 bap. There we are.
Objection.
So you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that?
Well, what else do you expect me to have done, eh? Does it really matter?
Objection.
The police have found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting? If you listen, you'll find out, you rude bitch. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in blood left very clearly at the scene on the back of this notice board.
Oh,
yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint in the distinct color of blood.
oh, you did right, that's my hand. I'd know it anywhere.
Objection.
The witness very definitely testified that he wiped his hand on the floor. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant. What the fuck was that? What the fuck kind of response was that, Kazuma? What the fuck was that? That's flabbergasted me. Because he said it wiped it on the floor, obviously the fact that there was no handprint on the floor, but the one on the back, there's one on the back of the notice board. Oh yeah, completely fucking irrelevant, isn't it? That's mind-boggling that he'd say that.
Objection.
Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim and in an upright position. Yet when we arrived... Hold on, I need to adjust my camera. It doesn't seem to be tracking my mouth too well from there. Alright, there we go. I did accidentally skip a bit of dialogue, though. Let's see. Even if it had somehow been toppled over and was lying on the floor at the time, it would have been a considerable distance from the body.
I fell over when I came across the body. So I was basically right next to the corpse on the other, not on the other side of the room.
In other words, the defense's assertion is What the Dude. Like, yeah. completely obviously, right? Like, no, it's not like there's a contradiction in the witness's testimony or anything. No, that couldn't possibly be it. Big Lip Man wouldn't lie now, would he? Yes, it is. There's a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason. I take it you formulated a proper hypothesis? Regarding this apparent discrepancy. I have, my lord. The discrepancy is the board moving, another handprint, false testimony. I think it's just that the board moved. The real contradiction here is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down. Good gracious, so it is. If the witness had put his hand against the board, the fingers should be pointing upwards. What does that tell us? It tells us one simple fact. When this handprint was made, the board must have been laying on the floor, as I previously suggested. Which means that after the incident, it must have been moved. What?
Objection.
You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting? Tell the court who. I don't know that yet, but the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point, and that would be the position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord. So, counsel, I must ask you to clarify. At the time of the incident, where do you maintain the notice board was? Right here, it sounds like. Or they want right in the doorway. I mean, he said he was right next to it, though, so...
Take that!
This is the only possible location. Immediately adjacent to the doorway? If the court would think back to the testimony given by the defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. Oh, that would make so much sense if the light's being blocked by the notice board.
Boy,
If the notice board had been here, the body would have been completely hidden from view, and the light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker.
Objection.
But the accused also claims that the victim's body simply appeared. That's true, or in his precise words, just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of the inspector appeared before me.
I don't know about calling it a scream, but it was talking about me and no mistake. 'Cause it was me that kicked the door open.
If you look at the floor plan again, consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. That can't. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over and making the victim's body visible. Good gracious! My client has told nothing but the truth. He had simply described what he saw. Ah! Order! Order! Whoa, sorry. Whoa, went way too fast. How has this not come to light before? Because my man over there is like, oh, if there's a discrepancy in the testimony, it must just be that the defense is fucking stupid. Maybe that's why it hasn't come forward yet. After the incident, somebody must have righted the board and moved it into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when investigating the room. Witness, what have you to say?
What? Me, my lord?
You and your fellows were there at the scene before anybody else. It goes without saying that you must know something about the position of the notice board. To the witnesses in the stand will testify again. You will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving.
Stop looking over your glasses at me. I get the message.
I hate that I started doing this and now I feel compelled to keep doing it.
I don't know nothing about that notice board. I just wiped my hand on it, that's all.
Well, don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. I don't know anything about it. Anything. I'm just a bystander, me. Just a sign at the crossroads of life.
It was the Reaper, I bet. He's got a face that screams bored.
Oh. I can't see how this changes anything. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot. So none of you can elaborate further. Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and an oil lamp, we can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened. That's right, yeah. It don't pay to expect too much. It's man's endless quest for knowledge that destroys the world. That's what I think. Do you? Really? In any case, as this testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. In short, the only person who could have possibly committed the crime is Barak von Zykes. None of this wrangling over the board changes that. Quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine? Yes. Of course. Let's go. Alright. So you admit that it was the board you wiped your bloody hand on?
Admit it? What's to admit? It's there plain as day for all to see. A smashing print on my right hand.
Perhaps you wanted to hide that handprint, so you righted the notice board and pushed it into the corner?
No, imagine the weight of that great lump. Do I look like a powerful and well-nurtured man?
To be honest, it doesn't look that heavy. Well, did you see anybody else moving the board?
I've got nerves of steel, I can tell you, but even I have my limits. There was a body on the floor in front of me, and the Grim Reaper himself standing over it. And there was precious little light inside, either. My bottom lip was all a quiver.
In other words, this witness is unable to give definitive testimony on that point. Yes, it would seem. When you say you were doing business with them, you mean you were selling them fireworks? Yeah, what else? There's the Priory School just around the corner, you see. Those cheeky little so-and-sos have got a plan to blow their school to kingdom come. Huh. So I've been telling on them, letting their teachers know what they're up to. Oh, you have? And then they come back to buy more. Wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, so I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys. Then, praise the Lord, the teachers take all the fire... Yeah. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to buy more. What a racket. It sounds a lot like you're admitting to several crimes. Of course, and sometimes the teachers give me a little bonus to thank me for letting them know. It's a busy old life, selling explosives. Venus is a guileful goddess indeed. Well, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing, really. I'm ever so good at it. You got something to say again over there? Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich? If I said it was, could we just leave it at that? Would that be the end of it? No. Did Miss Venus's statement now just bring something to mind? Philosophical thoughts. Deep philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar. And that great liar said, without batting an eye, Telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie, too? Or the truth, in which case she's not a liar? Oh, it's a hellish paradox, that one, don't you think? I'm not entirely sure, but it seems you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying, are you? What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that. And I'll wrap your whole body in fireworks and set 'em off. That'll give you something to tremble about. You have a startlingly disturbing mind behind that sweet and innocent face. So, Miss Venus has lied in her testimony. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days, so be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Oh, blabbermouth, we're headed for the room where the gunshot seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right, that rotten liar over there. Heh. Do you mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime? What did I tell you, eh? Bruh, I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? And yet we're going to continue letting her be a witness? You mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? Who knew fireworks packed such a punch? So you did investigate the scene of the crime, did you? Well, now you come to mention it. I suppose, perhaps, I do remember climbing the stairs to the room. Either you clearly remember it or you don't. Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later. For the time being, you will amend your testimony. Oh yes, my lord, of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek in the room where it all happened. And... you make a habit of lying, do you? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I'd take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Get this woman off the fucking stand. Like, when somebody on the stand is admitting, oh, I'm lying, I lie frequently, love lying. You know, really, lying is one of my favorite pastimes. I feel like you should stop listening to that person. Alright, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed, didn't you? Oh, please, as if I would. I can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know. Did you touch anything? Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Well, all right, just a bit then. I looked around to see if there was anything I could sell. So I did give the place a once-over, but it was nothing to write home about. Right, now I hesitate to ask, but... you didn't move the notice board, did you? Oh, please, as if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I add. The truth, please. Well, alright then, I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flippin' thing. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing. You're telling us that you did move that board? I think that did slip out, didn't it?
What? You deaf barn pop?
pretty rare to get a contradiction out of someone without presenting evidence.
I don't believe it. The girl doesn't think.
So, did you find anything? Something you might have taken to sell? Oh, please, I should be so lucky. The truth! Now! I might have found this old pocket. Oh my fucking god! I might have found this old pocket watch under the notice board. But a bit of like...
So it was you, was it? You're the one what took it.
Gina?
Young lady, may I remind you where you are?
That watch there. That was a present to Inspector Gregson from the yard for a big case he solved 10 years ago.
The professor case, no doubt.
The boss used to wind it every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come.
I see.
I swiped it off him once and blimey was he upset. He gave me a right earful. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did.
Possibly not the best thing to go diving for, then.
It's not all that, though. I took it to Jabez's that night to ask how much it was worth, but the old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it, said it wasn't working. Knocked about it and worthless, it called it.
Ah, I know I should have lifted it.
That watch must be submitted as evidence at once.
Oh, please, just so long as you promise to give it... Shut the fuck up.
Not a chance. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again.
That's enough. Hand the watch to the bailiff.
Now, Jesus Christ.
Good lord. The glass appears to be broken.
Or it broke at the time of death. More than likely it shattered when the inspector was shot.
It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabez didn't want it. What a waste, eh?
Let me look at it.
It appears to have stopped at the hour of 5.
Well, that's not helpful. Exactly when the gunshot was heard, then. Which supports the prosecution's claim. Let me have a gander at this watch. Jesus fucking Christ. This woman just committed perjury like 7 times within a span of a few minutes, and she hasn't just been taken away? What the fuck? Alright, what we got? That's where the key goes. It's for winding the watch. There's a tiny little keyhole here. Can you see it? Oh, yes, that's probably the winder. It looks a little unusual, don't you think? Yes, you'd need just the right key to wind it, I imagine. Why do I feel as I've seen something? Yes, we have. Let's check carefully over what we already... I have it. Yes. Please. Please don't make me wait like 20 minutes to present this as evidence. Please, just put the fucking thing in now. It was at the top. Yeah, didn't we do this? It wasn't listed as being ticked, but maybe that's just because it's changed. What's that? Key. Like, please, please put it in the watch. Do you think perhaps this key could be the key for Gregson's watch? Oh, yes, it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose. It's not broken! I knew it. A perfect fit. And look! The inspector's watch has started going again. Ah, so it was obviously just not wound up. What is it? Well, if the watch wasn't actually broken, I have a feeling it has... Yeah. She's deep in thought, yeah. Now, maybe it didn't... He didn't die there, huh? It started ticking again. Okay. Now, let's resume pressing. It would appear the mystery of the missing notice board has been solved, at least. And as predicted, it had very little bearing on the case. Shut your fucking mouth. Now then, yes, let's go.
Hold it!
But you did go to see what happened in the room, didn't you?
Fenso Street is my whole world. It's all I know, and I know all of it.
I have to make it my business to know if I want to hold my sign up high. So you did go and see what had happened. It's not the destination that's important, it's how you get there, isn't it? Did you notice the notice board in the room? If you think about it, we're both the same species, aren't we? Both different members of the sign family. So if I spotted it, I might have tried to trip it out of a sense of rivalry, I admit. Someone really needs to tell you that you're Homo sapien, not Homo sapien. Does that mean that you didn't notice the board? I could only repeat what I said before. I don't know anything about it. In which case, we already know, thankfully, but a little awkward. Yeah, why did they write that line for it? It seems so obvious somebody would have pressed on that by now. Whatever. Nope, whoops, didn't want to do that. Oh. Oh. Wait, slam the watch down on this one.
Objection.
Yeah. Forgot that was his exact wording. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh. At the scene, we found this key to the winder of the inspector's watch. A key? And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered it still in fact works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken. And that fact completely undermines one of the fundamental premises on which this case has been built. Ah, what? Order! But, Counsel, the watch was stopped at exactly 5 o'clock. Yeah, which is just when we heard the gunshot.
It is exactly the hour.
The time was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened at 5 o'clock. Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when the crime was committed. No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Really, recall what Inspector Lestrade had said a few moments ago.
The boss used to wander every evening. Hadn't missed a day. World to him it meant, yeah.
The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day, in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died. Yes, that would be reasonable. But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. Oh, well, in summary, the evening before the day of the incident when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean... What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead. Order! Counsel, that is a most extraordinary claim! Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd. You claim that he was already dead the night before? Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Well, as it happens, they've overlooked a death before, haven't they? Well, on that subject, there is something rather surprising. There's actually an omission. Oh, time of death was left blank! The time of death is not noted. Ah, that's right.
Wait a minute. You're forgetting that my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in.
What do you mean?
Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty great puddle of blood.
Yes. So the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh.
He fetches on fast, doesn't he?
But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the victim's body. Does my learned friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Well, it didn't necessarily have to be human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human. The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It's beyond our abilities. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility it wasn't the inspector's blood.
Objection.
But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's beyond question. Is it, though? What? Given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the realm of possibility that the witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot. Oh, please, what are you trying to say?
I don't know what we heard, and it was a loud bang that came from that room.
Hey, you listen to me. The street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise.
Yeah?
Explain, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with this big boy I bought earlier for 6 pence. Well, the culprit could have used something like this, for example. A demonstration is in order, then. Yes, please, show the court how you could... We're waiting, counsel. I may have been mistaken. What? You've been... What? 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 Did I not click on the right thing? Did I present the wrong piece of evidence?
Take that!
What the fuck? I actually can't believe that's not the evidence. Really? Really? Even when the last words, what sort of bang could it make? Do I have to examine? You better fucking not. Have you? Oh, don't you fucking dare. It's the Venus special. I'm so mad. What? How fuck can you possibly justify this? Just the firework isn't enough. I can't believe it. Oh my fucking god. That's absurd. Jesus Christ.
Take that!
Something like that. Oh, I'm so mad. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot. Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness? Now hold on a minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little fireworks only make a little pop anyway, see? Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot. You're trying to suggest that somebody set one of those fireworks off at the scene? I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at that That could be why the candle got blown up. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in that room at 5 that day, and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for the peddlers on Frenso Street. But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause the bang was Barrick. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like them. I fear for your fingers, young lady. Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learnt of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a, time bomb. Good heavens, a bomb? Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. No, wait, it's not... It's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device? Yes, exactly, a timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Your extravagant claims will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way there was a timed device? The candlesticks? What else could it be, right? It's gotta be the candelabra, doesn't it? Obviously, it's not the watch. That's the only other, like... Because, like, nothing else is especially time-based, is it? Has to be the candles.
Take that!
As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible? Why? Because of the scorching. Yeah, that's a good point. Hadn't thought of that. Why would it be black like that? Oh, there'd be blood on it as well, wouldn't there? Well, oh fuck, it's auto-playing. Oh shit, stop. Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are? Goodness, yes. There would also be scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound. That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a few centimeters from the gun. Ah! Which means that the scorching on the candle can't be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks?
Okay, that be, eh?
The fact there's such visible scorching on the candle suggests the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle. After the killer had left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they'd heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies the victim could have died earlier than we've been led to believe. The previous day, even.
They're just old horses.
All of us here saw the victim going into the building, remember?
I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair even if I wanted to.
The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim. Consider this. Ugh! Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident could easily have been someone else entirely wearing the red hairpiece.
Someone else? Do you mean to say?
It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. Oh, very impressive, Ryunosuke. Kazuma? I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also noted the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired.
Order! Prosecutor Asogi, what on earth do you mean?
I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today. So we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's watch is just conjecture. But while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it.
Well, certainly I would agree.
And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard.
Even within the yard?
However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing, wouldn't you? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated.
Very well, counsel. Please present your argument.
Which piece of evidence do you want? Which piece of evidence is about the fucking... Do you want me to just present the notice board? Right? Okay. Alright. I mean, you know... Personally, I'd consider the chalkboard, the notice board to be pretty indicative, but, you know, whatever, that's fine, I suppose. Do you want the Red-Headed League article? Is that what you're here for? Okay. I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. The reason I was hesitant, it was like... He didn't come in wearing the red wig, it seems like, but, you know. Also, like, professor is like every other fucking word. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to... I'm just tilted over the fucking firecracker still, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm still mad. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation.
Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable.
Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except that... in a crowd of alleged gentlemen from the Red-Headed League.
The Red-Headed League?
So, you've already worked it out.
What on earth is all this about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen?
Media. Wow, nice. The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception.
A deception of what nature?
They've been targeting red-headed men all across London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once.
2 redheads?
Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece. So it was very likely that he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry, at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements. Bring those 2 Red-Headed League conspirators before me. At once, my lord. Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned. I'm so fucking mad still, dude. I'm so fucking tilted. I'm...